Shall we begin?
All right.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
This is going to be quite the ride.
And hello everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week. First and foremost, before we get to it, I just want to apologize for there being no podcast last week. It's this thing called adulting that I had to do, mainly because for something that may happen for next week, where there might not be a podcast next week. I am... fortunately for me, because I have the opportunity to do this, and it's really, really awesome. I'm going out of the country to somewhere I've never been to. It's going to be really cool, but we're leaving on Sunday of next week, and I don't know if I'll be able to do a podcast because I'll be, going to get everything ready and stuff like that. So there may or may not be a podcast next week. If there is a podcast next week, it will probably be relatively short. So I just want to inform you guys of that ahead of time. If you follow me on social media, then I will let you guys know about that again in case you forget. But yeah. So also, on top of everything, I want to announce that the podcast can, of course, be heard on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts, on Podbean. It can now be heard on Stitcher, which is really, really cool. I know sometimes listening to a podcast on YouTube is a little hard, because obviously if you listen to it on your phone and you exit out of it, it stops the podcast, or maybe you're just playing it in the background, who knows. Also, not everyone has access to Apple Podcasts, and maybe Podbean just works a little funky for you, but the podcast is now on Stitcher. I've been trying to get on there. I've been planning on getting it on there for a while. Just didn't go through the process, and now I went through the process, and it was actually pretty easy. It was easier than I thought it'd be. But yeah, so the podcast is now on Stitcher if you need another outlet to listen to the podcast. So it's up on there. Of course, there will be a link down below in the description/show notes area. So like I mentioned, there was no podcast last week, so I'm feeling a little down today. I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little down today. So I was going to talk about a few movie news items that came out last week, but that won't be the case. I'm just going to talk about the movie news items that came out this week, and it's kind of a slow week. We only have really two movie news items that I want to point out, and then the rest of the stuff is pretty much trailers. And then I'll be doing a review of It Chapter 2, because I saw that last night, and I want to do a review for you guys. So let's just get right to it. Let's move on to trailer talk.
Coming soon to theaters.
Alright, so we have a few of the quick trailers we're going to talk about. Like I mentioned, there was a lot of trailers that came out this week. The first one was Jexi. That stars Adam Devine as a character named Phil, who has no real friends and has a job that he creates top 10 lists. It pretty much is BuzzFeed, essentially. That's kind of the vibe it gave off. And to spice up his life, he gets a new AI assistant phone with the name of Jexi, which is voiced by Rose Byrne, who has a little bit of sass to her. And after Jexi does manage to get Phil a life and even a girlfriend played by Alexandra Shipp, she takes matters into her own hands, or to her own digital hands, have you, to get Phil back. The movie is written and directed by John Lucas and Scott Moore, who did Bad Moms. Jexi co-stars Michael Pena, Ron Funches, Wanda Sykes, and Kid Cudi, of all people. That opens later this year in October. I don't know how I felt about the trailer. There was a green band trailer and a red band trailer. And for those of you who still don't know, red band trailers have all the violence and language and gore and stuff like that, and green band trailers are obviously the ones you see mostly in front of a movie theater. So I don't know how I feel about the trailer. It seems almost problematic, but I don't know. I'm not really looking forward to that much. So let's move on to the next quick trailer we're going to talk about, and that is for the movie Waves. It is written and directed by Trey Edward Schultz, who directed a movie called Krishna, and he also directed a movie called It Comes at Night, which came out a couple years ago, which I really enjoyed. And this movie's been making, no pun intended, waves on the film festival circuit. I believe it's going to be playing currently at TIFF, which is the Toronto International Film Festival, which is going on right now. So you'll be hearing or seeing a lot of stuff like that. If you see TIFF on some outlets, it's because of that. So the movie is an emotional journey of a suburban African-American family led by a well-intended but domineering father, played by Sterling K. Brown. The cast also includes Renee Elise Goldsberry from the play Hamilton. It also stars Calvin Harris Jr., I should say, who was recently in Loose, where he gave a really fantastic performance, at least from what I heard. I have not watched Loose yet. He was also in It Comes at Night, which is actually pretty cool. Lucas Hedges is also in there, Taylor Russell, and Clifton Collins Jr. Like I said, the movie's been making waves at the film festival circuit. It also has an original score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which is really cool. Of course, they have done the scores to like The Social Network and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and of course a bunch of other stuff. So that's really awesome. And this movie comes out in November. I don't think there's an actual release date. I know they're aiming for a November spot, which pretty much tells me with all the great word of mouth coming out from the film festival circuit, it's most likely going to get some Oscar nominations, or at least be in the Oscar hunt. So there's that. We got just two more quick trailers to talk about before we get to the main trailers of the week. The next one is Just Mercy. It's based on a true story and stars Michael B. Jordan as Brian Stevenson, a just graduated Harvard lawyer who heads to Alabama to defend wrongly condemned or people who were not offered proper or can afford proper representation. With the support of a local advocate, Ava Ansley, played by Brie Larson. His first case is of Walter McMillan, played by Jamie Foxx, who was sentenced to death for the murder of an 18-year-old girl, despite evidence proving his innocence and the fact that the only testimony against him came from a criminal with a motive to lie. The movie is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who directed Short Term 12, which starred Brie Larson, which is really cool. Just Mercy co-stars Tim Blake Nelson, who I believe, at least from the trailers, it looks like he's playing the criminal from the synopsis that I just read. Rafi Spall is in there as well. O'Shea Jackson Jr. is also in there. I don't think I saw him in the trailer, but he is in the movie. Just Mercy opens next year on January 10th. This one I also believe is getting some film festival, or is going to start playing at the film festivals. It looks very good. Obviously we kind of all now associated Michael B. Jordan with Creed and with Killmonger from Black Panther, but I think a lot of people sometimes forget that Michael B. Jordan broke onto the scene with a drama of Fruitvale Station, which I heard he was very good in. That's actually on my queue. I'm actually going to watch that when I go on my trip. So this looks pretty good. I don't know anything about the true story that's going on. Walter McMillan, like I mentioned, he's on death row. This obviously does look like a big drama and a big Oscar heavy hitter if it gets the chance to. So keep an eye out on this. I'll definitely keep an eye on this for you as well. So that's Just Mercy. And the last quick trailer we're going to talk about is a teaser trailer for a movie called Gretel and Hansel. It is directed by Osgood Perkins, who directed The Black Coat's Daughter and Netflix's I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. It's a very long title, but apparently it's on Netflix. A twist on the Grimm brothers fairy tale follows Sophia Lillis from It. She plays young Beverly, and her little brother Hansel. Sophia Lillis plays Gretel, and her little brother Hansel, played by an actor named Sammy Leakey, who venture into the dark woods in a desperate search for food and work, only to stumble upon a terrifying evil. Which, of course, if we're all familiar with the Hansel and Gretel story, it is the witch, which I believe is actually played by Alice Kriegel in this movie. If you need someone, she's always kind of playing a bad guy or someone who's like a head of a cult. I mostly associate her with the cult leader in the movie Silent Hill. So that's kind of what I associate her within my recollection. So this looks very creepy. It gives a lot of witch vibes. There's a shot at the end of the trailer which they spoil in the little pre-teaser that movies are starting to do now. They give that little pre-teaser and then they go into the actual trailer. So they kind of give it away in the pre-teaser, but that shot is very disturbing. And this movie looks very disturbing, so I'm really looking forward to this. I knew about it a little bit. I knew that Sophie Lillis was doing a Hansel and Gretel movie, but I kind of like that they're kind of going with this atmospheric look, because it does, if you've seen The Witch, it does very much look like it can fit into that same little world. So Gretel and Hansel will open next year at the end of January, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye out on that. Alright, so let's move on to our main trailers this week. We have 3 that I'm going to talk about, and those 3 trailers are, the first one we're going to talk about is, I don't know why I said that 2 different ways twice, a new trailer for Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit.
Here's Marshal Jojo. You're our top man. Prepare to leave the house.
Today you boys will be involved in such activities as war games, ambush techniques, and blowing stuff up.
I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
When I was your age, I had an imaginary friend. Got me in so much trouble.
Kids, it's time to burn some books.
You're growing up too fast. 10-year-olds shouldn't be celebrating war and talking politics.
Heil Hitler.
I wish more of our young boys had your blind fanaticism.
Did you know Jews can read each other's minds? But how would you know if you saw one? They could look just like us. Hi. You know what I am? Say it. A Jew. Gesundheit.
Sheesh, that was intense.
What am I going to do?
No idea.
Got it! I will
Burn
negotiate.
down the house and blame Winston Churchill. Or negotiate.
If I tell on you, you'll be in big trouble.
They'll never win. Love is the strongest thing in the world.
Your mother took me in. She's kind. She treats me like a person.
You two seem to be getting on well.
She doesn't seem like a bad person. I'm the enemy. You're not a Nazi, Jojo. You're a 10-year-old kid who likes dressing up in a funny uniform and wants to be part of a club. Yogi? Jojo! Oh, God. Nothing makes sense anymore. Yeah, I know. It's definitely not a good time to be a Nazi.
The film follows a lonely 10-year-old boy, Jojo, played by Roman Griffin Davis, and in Nazi Germany whose imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler, played by Taika Waititi. Jojo's loyalties and beliefs are tested when he discovers his mother, played by Scarlett Johansson, is hiding a young Jewish girl, played by Thomasin McKenzie, in their attic. Jojo Rabbit co-stars Rebel Wilson, Stephen Merchant, Alfie Allen, and Sam Rockwell. Jojo Rabbit opens on October 18th, later this year. I really like this trailer. I thought it was really funny. I really liked the teaser that came out earlier this year. And this is just adding on to that weird little wacky Taika Waititi humor that we all know. I mean, I think a good majority of people know Taika Waititi's humor from Thor Ragnarok. But if you've been following Waititi's career before Thor Ragnarok, you know that he has this great. He has his hand on the pulse on this great humor. He did What We Do in the Shadows, which of course was made into a TV series. If you have not watched that, I highly recommend you do. I think it's one of the best new shows in the year. He also did Hunt for Wilder People, which was very funny. And of course, he's doing now this. And obviously, Jojo Rabbit has a little bit of some, not conspiracy, but it has a little bit of, I don't even think drama is the right word either. It just has this aurora around it because obviously it's a satire on Adolf Hitler. They use was it an anti-hate satire or something like that. I forgot the exact wording they were using, but the movie also has a problem because it was reported a couple weeks ago, I think it was last week, or a couple weeks ago, that Disney was having a hard time, or was going to have a hard time trying to promote Jojo Rabbit to a wider audience. and it's gonna be interesting to see how Jojo Rabbit is not only promoted once they get into the promotional part of the marketing, but also how it's accepted by the broader audiences. Not just the people that love Waititi and love his humor and know about this and know what the movie's trying to do, but how the wider audience who are not, like us, who read everything online or everything we can get our hands on, and how they accept it. But I, for one, am really looking forward to this. I love Waititi. I love his work. This just looks really, really funny. I don't know who Roman Griffin Davis is. I think he's relatively a new actor. I know who Thomasin McKenzie is. She was in this great indie movie that came out a couple years ago, or maybe even last year. I forgot when it came out. And I also forgot the name. Wow. But I think that was one of her first real lead roles. It has Ben Foster in it. They kind of play this father and daughter who are kind of living off the grid. It's a very great movie, and I can't believe I forgot the name of it, but it's a really good movie. So if you want to look that up, obviously look it up. Just look up Thomasin McKenzie, and you'll probably find it right away. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Jojo Rabbit. That's a movie that I've been looking forward to for a while, and I can't wait to watch. So that comes out October 18th, if I didn't mention that. The next big trailer that came out this week was the new trailer, or the first trailer, I should say, for the new remake of Black Christmas.
It's my privilege to teach you this semester. Enjoy your winter breaks and Merry Christmas.
What's up, ladies? Excited for tonight?
It is our last day of our last fall semester of college ever.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
Can you take a photo of all of us?
Of course.
Where's Helena?
She was pounding back of sodas earlier, but she looked really good.
Cheese.
We shouldn't have let her go back by herself. She's fine. Come on, live a little.
In the frosty air.
No, wait. Helena hasn't gotten home yet.
If I were missing, I'd want you to unleash the bloodhounds and track me down.
She was at DKO last night.
Still creating problems, all right?
Hello? Hello? I'm worried that something bad happened.
It's winter break. Could just be a delay of some sort. Snow.
My friend is missing.
9 times out of 10, the girl's just with a boyfriend.
I will bring you to your knees. There's someone in the house.
What the? This can't be real.
This school has 200 years of history. Many sacrifices have been made to keep our traditions alive.
You're all insane.
I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of running. Go, 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 go!
Ho, 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 bitch. You messed with the wrong sisters.
The remake stars Imogen Poots from 28 Weeks Later, the remake of Fright Night, that was a little better than I think people get credit for. Green Room, The Great Green Room, that was a really great movie. And recently she was in The Art of Self-Defense as a member of the Mu Kappa the Mu Kappa Echelon sorority, that's a hard word to say apparently, who opt to stay on campus for the holiday break. During a massive party, one of the sorority sisters, Helena, goes missing, and it's Poots' character who tries to find her, but eventually her and her sorority find themselves the target of a killer, or killers. It's very interesting how they kind of put that trailer up there. So the movie is produced by Blumhouse, which of course has a great track record, and the trailer does feel like it gives a little too much away. And I'm not one of those people, and I think recently I've kind of now fallen into that camp of watching a trailer and kind of feeling, not every trailer I watch, but most trailers that I watch, I kind of feel like sometimes they give a little bit away. The thing with Blumhouse, though, sometimes it feels like they're giving a lot away, and then they kind of, mix it up. And obviously Blumhouse, I don't think Blumhouse, the way trailers work, they're kind of, the trailers are cut by like other companies, and then the studios release them. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, the trailer itself, it kind of gives a little bit away, but because of that, we know that the remake will be a little different from the past remake, which was absolutely terrible. Black Xmas, if you don't know what I'm talking about. I did not really like that movie at all, whatsoever. And I remember having a very bad experience going to go watch that movie because I went to go watch it on opening day. The theater was filled up, so we couldn't go watch it. So we tried again. It was also filled up, and then we finally saw it the third time, and we were like, we probably were better. I think that was a sign from the universe telling us not to watch this movie. But I didn't really like it. It has some good stuff in it, but I didn't really like it. But of course, the movie is based itself off the original and iconic version from 1974 of the same name, Black Christmas. The remake here will have the sorority sisters actually fighting back, which I think is a very nice little twist, and a very of the times kind of idea. It looks like there will also be multiple killers, or at least from the looks of it, it looks like there's going to be multiple killers, because it looks like there might be a cult at the center of it, and it looks like Carrie Elwes, who is in the movie, is probably the cult leader. I don't know. It looks. The trailer was very. The trailer is very choppy, but it doesn't look too bad. I can't be as bad as Black Xmas, but I think it looks okay. I'm not overly excited to go watch it. I am gonna go watch it because I like horror movies, so I'm gonna go watch it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully, the next trailer will be a little bit better. But Black Christmas opens on December 13th later this year, so if you want to go check that out. And finally, the last trailer that came out this week, probably one of the biggest trailers that came out this week, or the biggest trailer that came out this week, was the first trailer for Bad Boys for Life. And yes, it is that Bad Boys. It brings back Will Smith as Mike Lowry and Martin Lawrence as Marcus Burnett.
Oh, shit. Oh. Come on, man. You can get that buffed out. No, you can get that buffed out. Remember, knock and talk. Yeah, knock, knock. Miami PD, get down! What the hell happened to knock and talk? Hands behind your head right now. I got this. I'm gonna penetrate this man's soul with my heart. What? Watch and learn. Sir, I realize that you're scared. You know, sometimes fear... How deep you think you got in his soul? I'm done, Mike. I'm retiring. Uh-oh, here we go again. You want your legacy to be muscle shirts and body counts?
Look at this mess, it's carnage!
I didn't do all this.
You didn't shoot anybody?
Well, come on, Cap, you know I shot some people.
Yeah. Fuck me! Fuck!
In these streets, I never trusted anybody but you. I'm asking you, man. Bad Boys. One last time. One last time.
I'm the definition of half man, half drums. Ask the clubs, bad boy, that's what's up.
He's driving through a mall. We're not just black, we're cops too. We'll pull ourselves over later.
It's official. I survived what I've been through. Y'all got drama, the saga continues. Bad boys.
You were right about the glasses. I've been telling your ass for a year.
He can't be stopped now.
Shit, Mike. These are like HD.
Cause it's bad boy for life. He ain't going nowhere. Cause it's bad boy for life.
Bad boys, bad boys.
Hey,
what she gonna do? What she gonna do when we come in?
No, never. Y'all will never do that again.
Yeah, and you fucking up the lyrics, which take a long time to learn.
Cause it's bad boy for life.
Story details are being kept under wraps at the moment, but from the trailer it looks like they're going to go for one last ride, and Marcus is calling it quits. Regardless, it does look like the series is picking up where it left off. Comedy-wise, action-wise, it looks like they're even upping the action a little bit. It looks like there's going to be a lot of practical stunts. There's that cool shot of, I think it was Mike, Will Smith's character, riding a motorcycle, and it looks like there's like a semi-truck without the, the big container in the back, and he kind of runs into it, and it just got slides out of it, and then he's jumping off the truck into a helicopter ladder. It looks pretty cool. Look, the Bad Boys movies, at least the first one for me, is one of the staples of my movie watching childhood. I used to watch that movie a lot when I was a kid, which probably says a lot about me now. But let's not open that door. But that was really good. And then, of course, Bad Boys 2 came out. This movie has been in the works for a while. And a lot of the time it was because the script wasn't right. It was because Will Smith didn't want to come back because he wanted the story to be perfect. Martin Lawrence had sometimes said, I'll do it if Will Smith comes back. And obviously Will Smith didn't want to come back because he was doing other stuff. And he wanted to focus on other stuff at the time, which was obviously very fair for him to do. And then they couldn't come up with a story. This movie was supposed to come out last year, but got delayed to this year. It kept getting moved around. It's just a whole big ordeal for a third movie, a series that everyone really enjoyed and everyone really liked. For it to finally come out now and have basically, all these characters come back. You got Joe Pantoliano back as the captain, which was really, really cool. But then you got, these new characters. Vanessa Hudgens is in there. Alexander Ludwig is there as well. Charles Melton is also in there. It looks like they're playing a new crew that Mike and Marcus are either going to be leading or just unfortunately have to team up with. I don't know. But either way, I'm really looking forward to this. I probably shouldn't be looking forward to this as much as I am, but I really am. So Bad Boys for Life opens next year on January 17th. So you can look forward to that. It's a bit of a ways away, but not as much as you'd think. So there you go. So let's trailer talk for you guys. Obviously, if anything else drops, I will, while I'm editing or while this is uploading, I will put it in the description/show notes area for you guys. And of course, all the links to these trailers are down below if you want to watch them yourself or if you want to watch them again. All right, so let's move on to this week's movie news items of the week. Alright, like I mentioned, there wasn't too many movie news items that came out, at least, ones that I would be willing to really get into. The first one we're going to talk about, we only have two, by the way. Like I mentioned, I'm feeling a little down, I don't want to get too into the podcast, and so, the first movie news item we're going to talk about is about Crazy Rich Asians. I don't know, maybe some of you guys saw this. Crazy Rich Asians, of course, the movie itself was a massive success when it came out last year, winning over pretty much everyone that watched it, including me. I was not very excited to watch Crazy Rich Asians. I watched it, and I was very, very surprised. But now the sequels have hit a very huge snag, and not in the best way possible. So according to the Hollywood Reporter, Adele Lim, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, or Lime, has left the sequels, which will be shooting back to back. So that's a very big hit over a pay disparity with her co-writer Peter, I think I'm mispronounced his last name, Chiarelli. So according to the outlet, the studio, which is Warner Brothers, which does not look good on Warner Brothers because of course they are the studio that's releasing It this weekend, wanted to pay Chiarelli, a white man, $800,000 to $1 million, and wanted to pay Lime, an Asian woman, $110,000 plus. Obviously that's a very big pay disparity. The studio then thought it would be a good idea to release this statement saying, or not, they didn't release a statement, they said it to Lime's attorneys or agents, saying that the industry standard established ranges based on experience and that making an exception would set a troubling precedent in the business. So to be fair, I mean, it's not fair what they're doing to her, but based on what they said, experience-wise, Chiarelli does have a bigger experience writing movies, while Lime is actually more of a TV writer. So this was, Crazy Rich Asians was basically her first real big feature film, and since we're going off that, Chiarelli was actually the first writer to be bought in. He was attached to the project from the get-go, and then when director John M. Chu came on board to direct, he bought in line to help with the script. To help with the script. So, there's that little weird difference, and John M. Chu has reportedly said that he wants to keep the core writing team because he also helps out with the script as well, so he wants to keep both of them on board, but obviously that's not gonna happen. So it was reported that Chiarelli even offered to split his pay, but Lime refused, basically saying that her pay shouldn't be dependent on a white guy getting a pay cut. It's essentially kind of what she said. If you want to read her full statement, the Hollywood Reporter report even also has some other comments from her as well, which are very, very good to read. But the script is now being worked on by Chiarelli himself and with director John M. Chu, so it is a pretty big hit, and it's not a good thing. Crazy Rich Asians, like I mentioned, was a massive success. It surprisingly had like a $30 million budget or something like that. It made way over $200 million at the box office. So that thing was a massive hit, and for them to do this, to make such a massive pay, okay, fine. You want to pay the guy who has more experience more, that's fine. But don't pay the person who does not have that much experience writing movies. She's a veteran TV writer. Don't make the pay so much smaller, because that really is a slap in the face. And I don't know why they would even think that would be okay. And I don't know who leaked this. I think she might have been the one that, I don't think it was a leak, but I think she was the one that kind of came out and said, I'm leaving because of this. That's a big problem. And it probably won't affect Warner Brothers right now, because of It. It Chapter 2 being this massive movie in theaters. That's the big movie for them right now, Warner Brothers. I don't think it would affect them for that, because people are just going to go and watch that movie regardless. It is going to be a problem for the future and for other movies, and whoever they end up getting to maybe replace her on the sequels, if they end up replacing her at all. So I don't know. When I read this, I was like, that's really dumb. You probably shouldn't say something like that. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because I thought that was really, really stupid. And for a studio to be like, well, this is just the way it's been done for years. No, especially with the numbers being released. So that was dumb. That was really dumb on your part. All right. So let's move on to the second and final movie news item of the week, and we're going to talk about Tomb Raider. So the sequel to Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider movie was officially announced earlier this year. That was going to get a sequel anyway, but a director had not been found. So that was early this year. I think it was like in February or March that they announced that sequel. So fast forward to this week, and now we have one, and it is kind of a surprising one in Ben Wheatley. Reports are saying that Wheatley has signed on to direct the sequel, and we'll see Vikander return once again to play Lara Croft. The sequel will be a reunion for Wheatley behind the camera, as the movie will be written by a frequent collaborator of his in Amy Jump. She was announced to join the project, I believe, a couple months ago. So Wheatley has directed an indie horror film called The Kill List, which a lot of indie horror fans rave about. I have not seen it yet. He also directed the segment U is for Unearthed on the horror anthology The ABCs of Death, which I believe you can see on Netflix or on Shudder, something like that. He also did the adaptation to High Rise, which starred Tom Hiddleston a few years ago, and he did recently, I think this is his last movie, Free Fire, which I personally recommend and love. So go check that out. Free Fire. It stars a bunch of people. It has Brie Larson, Armie Hammer, Cillian Murphy. It's a great little Charlotte Copley's in there as well. It's a great crime thriller comedy that I highly recommend. Go watch Free Fire. You're not gonna be disappointed. So Wheatley has either finished or is finishing an adaptation of Rebecca, which of course already had a semi-adaptation by Alfred Hitchcock. I think his Rebecca is going to be more faithful to the book than Alfred Hitchcock's version was. So he has that going on. So it looks like Lara Croft will be his next movie, because on top of all that, release date was announced for the movie as well. Lara Croft, I'm just going to say Tomb Raider 2, because we don't know what the movie's called yet, will be opening on March 19th, 2021. So those are your movie news items of the week. Let's move on to this week's movie releases.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So we only really have one big movie release this week, and that is, of course, of It Chapter 2. It is the continuation, well, the conclusion, really. Continuation and conclusion of the, of course, the It little series. I don't know what I'm going to call it. I don't know why. I don't know where I was going with that. It is a conclusion of It Chapter 1 that came out last year, or a couple of years ago, I should say. Based, of course, off the Stephen King novel of the same name. It has the Adult Losers Club coming back to Derry to finish off Pennywise, the Dancing Clown, for good. Like I mentioned, I watched it last night in IMAX, of all places, so the nightmare fuel was real for me, but it was very, I will say, non-spoiler wise, that the movie was good. I would recommend it. I was actually a big fan of It Chapter 1. I really liked it. I thought it was a great little coming-of-age movie that also happened to be a horror movie. I thought the young cast was great. Bill Skarsgård's... Right? Bill Skarsgård? Because there's so many Skarsgårds. Yeah, it's Bill. Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise was terrifying in every way possible, and I just really liked it. I really liked It Chapter 1. I know there was people who were defenders of the TV movie over Chapter 1 that came out in 2017, but I really liked Chapter 1, and I was really looking forward to seeing what they were going to do with Chapter 2. I was content with It Chapter 2. That's probably not the right word I want to use right now, but that's the word I'm going with. Non-spoiler wise, I thought it was good. The adult cast is great. You got Jessica Chastain playing adult Beverly. You have James McAvoy playing adult Bill. You got Bill Hader playing adult Richie. Isaiah Mustafa playing adult Mike. Jay Ryan playing Ben. James Ranson playing Eddie. Eddie Bean playing Stanley, and of course, again, the return of Bill Skarsgård playing Pennywise. They were all great. They all had their moments to shine, and you can feel that they were actually the adult versions of the younger cast members that we saw in It Chapter 1. The scares are built up a little more. There are a little bit more jump scares in the movie. I think the movie really ups the ante on some of the scares. I really loved a certain reference, an homage to one of my favorite horror movies. If you're a big horror movie fan, you probably know what that is as soon as you watch it, because as soon as that popped up, I was like, that's what I thought of. But this is a little bit more gross because it's on a big screen. But I really liked it. I think the practical effects they did a little bit in this one were pretty good as well. It does get a little bit too CGI near the end, and of course everyone's talking about the length. I think you feel a little bit at the beginning, because the beginning kind of is a little bit slow to getting them all together. But once they're all together, and once they're realizing what they have to do to stop Pennywise, that's really when it picks it up. So you don't really feel it in the middle. It's really weird. You usually feel the length of the movie in the middle, but the middle of the movie was fine. It's the end of the movie where it also draws out a little bit too long. I think maybe if they had snipped it just a little bit at the end, I think it would have been fine, but you don't really feel the length too much. You do feel it by the end. You're like, all right, let's wrap this up. Come on, guys, just beat them already. But that's kind of what it really all is. The comedy is great. The humor is great. Obviously, Bill Hader is getting praised online, but I think another true hero in the movie, just as a character and humor as well, is James Ranson playing Eddie, who I thought was fantastic in it. I think I actually like him more than Bill Hader in the movie, which I know is blasphemy for some, but that's just my opinion. But I really liked him as Eddie. I think most people will know, if you're fans of him or you've never seen him before. Maybe you probably have seen him in horror movies before. He actually played Deputy Nobody. I think was it Deputy Nobody in the Sinister movies. That's him. That's the same guy. So that's kind of where I knew him. So it was really cool to see him as adult Eddie in this movie. The kids do come back in some flashbacks, which are really cool. I know there was that report that they got de-aged in the movie. I think it's more noticeable on Finn Wolfhard because he looked. I think it's more noticeable on him than any of the other kids. So I think that's where they spent most of the de-aging for them. But overall, like I mentioned, non-spoiler wise, I really liked it. The length is a little bit too hard. The humor is really top notch. I think there's probably some jokes where you're just like, okay, you're just doing it for joke's sake. But there is that. Emotionally, I did not feel like I was going to be on the verge of tears watching an It Chapter 2 horror movie, but I was, and I think a lot of that is because of the cast, and they're all great. There are some moments where you're like, come on, really? You're just going to do that? But for the most part, I really liked It Chapter 2. I would recommend it to you guys. If you watched the first one and you liked it, you'll probably like a lot of It Chapter 2. There are probably moments you won't like of it, but I kind of liked it. There are some things where just like, really, you're going that route? Come on. But whatever. I recommend it. I like it. I would recommend it to you guys if you want to go watch it. So, stamp of approval for me on the Movie Pit Podcast. So that's the non-spoiler part. I was going to do a spoiler part, but you know what? No, I don't want to do a spoiler part. I think I might mention just a little bit of spoilers. So here's just a little bit of spoilers. There are timestamps down below if you don't want to hear about spoilers. So, right off the get-go, the movie starts off with a hate crime, and that was really rough. I know the lady sitting next to me, who I didn't know who she was, obviously just a random lady, her and their friend that were sitting next to me did not like that scene whatsoever. I don't think nobody did. I think that was a really rough way to start the movie off, but yeah, and I know a lot of people are discussing that on some reviews and online and stuff like that, but it is in the book. It kind of serves no purpose other than to show that Derry is still... there are still people in Derry who are stuck in a time frame, who are stuck in this capsule of time that, shouldn't be, but there's that. Yeah, there's that. The gore in this movie is up a lot, and the homage that I was talking about earlier was, of course, the head. Stanley's head that comes out of the fridge, and it's obviously a reference to The Thing, which I saw, and I looked at my brother, and we both had this just huge grin on our faces. But it takes it a little bit more because the thing just comes out of the eye, and it's just no. It was really hard to look at. But there was that. I love Bill Hader. I loved his kind of character arc that, they didn't explicitly say that he was gay, and I really liked that they didn't go that route. I think that wasn't in the book. I have not read the book in a very long time, and I don't even think I finished it. So, and it wasn't because it was scary. I just never finished reading it. So, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the book. But yeah, I liked everyone else. The thing I kind of felt a little bit... all these characters have moments where you're just like, come on. Obviously, Jessica Chastain, sometimes when she comes into a room, she just lets out this scream for some reason. Like, what are you doing? This isn't an 80s movie. What are you doing? I mean, people will probably react that same way, but it felt a little weird and forced. The first time it happens is when Eddie comes out after he's been stabbed in the face by what's his name? By Henry, by adult Henry Bowers, played by Teach Grant, and I think it happens a second time when they all walk into the library and they see that Richie's killed Henry with a pickaxe or an axe or whatever it was that he killed him with. The return of Henry Bowers is really weird because they bring him back, and I mean, it's another antagonistic force for the losers, but they bring him back, they bail him out of it, and then that's kind of it. I mean, he only gets to Eddie, and then he gets to Mike, and Mike's not even the one that kills him. So it's a little weird. I don't know how I felt about his character coming back, and then his dead friend coming back. I don't even remember if they killed him. I think they just brought him back, and then he just suddenly disappeared. If anyone has seen the movie and can remember that, does he just disappear? because it feels like he just disappeared. I don't remember what happened to his dead friend's character. Not that he was important, but it kind of felt that way. What else, spoiler-wise, that I want to get into? Jay Ryan's Ben, he's this, he was the fat kid, now he's, the successful, tall, handsome, skinny kid with muscles, that shirt, that scene where, his shirt's up and they get a close-up of his abs, like, yeah, that was for the ladies. That was for the ladies. But his character kind of really doesn't, he kind of gets the short end of the stick. I mean, everyone else has their moments. Jessica Chastain, of course, still has all the repressive memories of her being abused. James McAvoy's Bill is still dealing with Georgie's loss. I love the stuff with James McAvoy and Georgie and everything like that. Of course, Richie's dealing with his hidden sexuality and the Paul Bunyan scene, which I thought was really cool. Isaiah Mustafa's Mike is the only one that stays in town, and he kind of tricks everyone into what happened, and he kind of almost becomes a he doesn't become a villain, but what he does is kind of a dickish move. But obviously he had to do what he had to do to get rid of Pennywise. And James, okay, like I mentioned, James Ranson. And then there's Andy Bean, who plays Stanley. He's not in the movie too much because obviously they continue the trend of killing Stanley. He's kind of the one that brings also all the losers together against Pennywise as well. Bill Skarsgård again as Pennywise. I mentioned it during the non-spoiler bits, but he's fantastic in this as well, and he's still terrifying even more. So that scene with the little girl, when he just kind of freezes, and it happens multiple times in the movie where people just freeze and then they kind of snap out of it. And when he does it, it's more terrifying because you know what's going to happen next, but it's that shock of when it happens that really creeps me out. I just, there's not really too much I want to talk about spoiler wise. I think I remember standing outside the theater waiting for one of the people I went with to get out of the bathroom, and I overheard these group of people behind me walking past me. I wasn't eavesdropping. They're walking behind me, and I can hear them saying, essentially, like, how can you not feel for Pennywise when he was this little thing, and all these adults are basically just telling me he sucks and he's worthless and everything. So I just found that funny that's the takeaway you get of a little Pennywise, which is very funny to look at. There were multiple times my theater was laughing, and I don't know if it was intentional laughing or unintentional laughing, but there was multiple moments of that. Little Pennywise was a little funny. And then he's reached out his little hands to touch Mike before he takes away his heart. Probably unintentionally funny, but yeah. Tone wise, like I mentioned, there's some jokes that probably won't fit. Richie, I should say, Bill Hader's. He's always on. He's always telling jokes. He's always on. He's always saying something to bring levity. He even says, I'm just trying to bring some levity to this situation, which is a top-notch thing to say. But at the same time, it's like sometimes he's always on, and it's a little not distracting, but it's just a little like, all right, get over it. Come on, let's you're being chased down by a giant monster. Now is not the time to crack jokes. But yeah, I liked it. I really did. I enjoyed it. I don't know how I felt about it. How I felt if it was better than Chapter 1. I don't think it was better than Chapter 1. I think the problem with the length, and I'm not usually one to complain about a movie's length, especially if it's worth it, and if they don't drag along the movie. But I think with it Chapter 2, they dragged just a little bit in the end. But I overly enjoyed it. I overall enjoyed it, I should say, not overly. I overall enjoyed it. So if my opinion matters to you in any sort of way, I'd recommend it Chapter 2 if you haven't watched it yet. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Obviously, if anything drops, trailer-wise or anything like that, I'll drop it down below in the description/show notes area. But I'll try to update the Facebook page as well. I've been trying to update the Facebook page a little bit more this week. Probably very bad timing considering that I'm going out of the country, but I will still try to update you guys as much as possible. So, like I mentioned, next week there may not be a podcast. If there is, it will be a very short one. So just keep an eye out for that. Of course, the podcast is on YouTube. It is on, I almost said Spotify. It's not on Spotify. If you want it on Spotify, let me know. It is on Apple Podcasts, and it is now, again, on Stitcher, which is really, really cool. So all links to all those will be down below in the description/show notes area. Also down there are other links to my personal social media accounts for the podcast on Twitter and Facebook. Also, the WordPress is down there as well. That's where I do some written reviews. I'm actually working on It Chapter 2 written review. It's basically everything I just told you guys right here on the podcast. So, but if you want to read, then go right ahead. It will be linked down. It will be up on there probably later tonight, if not tomorrow for sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I always really appreciate it, and hopefully you guys have a good week, have a good weekend, depending on when you're listening to this. And be safe out there, be good people, and as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!